Welcome to the Wired workshop series organized by the Welsh Institute for Research in Economics and Development. And today we are going to introduce a new kind of research methodology for economists. And this is something quite useful for me personally. So before we start, may I ask people here who enjoy literature review here? With your hand. Okay, no, actually me too. So this workshop is for two types of people. One who hates literature review, just like you. And the other type of people is who likes it, really likes literature review, but it can accommodate both. Right, so let's look at some facts of literature review in economics and other area. And you can see that economics, according to the Scopus database, has a very low proportion of reviews. It only accounts for about 4.48% if you use the Scopus search for all articles. And then just click the review type. It's very low compared to other subjects like medicine, psychology, and even management. All subjects, if you include everything, then that's about 5%. It's still higher than economics. So it is quite astonishing observation. And if you restrict all the articles in economics and finance and econometrics, this area, then the review over the last 22 years is not growing, even if the total volume of economic publication is growing all the time. But the volume of review is basically stagnant. But at the same time, if you look at the systematic reviews, if you search for systematic literature review, then the growth in the latest decade is quite exponential. It's growing. That one, this gray part, is the only type of review that grows exponentially, following the trend of the overall trend. Yeah, so why? Why we have observed this unbalancedness in review in economics? Right, because when I was a PhD, no one taught me how to do literature review. Well, very well trained in DSG models, data estimation, and so on. It's quite quantitative. Well, very well trained in this aspect, but economists never get trained in qualitative research. If you think about it, in your first year PhD, you're just asked to do it. No one show you what is a good literature review. And qualitative research involves unstructured textual data rather than quantitative data like variables on the columns and observations on the rows. So it's quite different. So that's why we don't have a very well prepared skill set for that. And the consequence for this is there is a high demand for review of different fields in economics, but the supply of reputable economists who can write this is quite little. This is why we have excess demand and the market gap here. This market gap suggests a sign of insufficient or inefficient use of existing research, and we should use some new skills to fill this gap. And this opens huge opportunities for publication, because in economics the ratio is obviously lower than other fields. Right, so one possibility to solve this problem, to fill this gap, is what I'm going to introduce today, the systematic literature review. As you have already seen in the previous graph, systematic literature review has already gained some growth in economics publication. And if you can turn your boring job of writing a literature review into some publishable job, then that will give you much motivation to do the literature review, because it is something you have to do. In your thesis, in your research, in your project in the future, everything has to be based on literature But if you just write that for your paper, then that doesn't seem quite exciting. But if I tell you it is publishable, then probably you would be more motivated. Okay, this is a simple search in Scopus. Probably you can't see that clearly, but it's just some 3-star journals that publishes systematic literature review in economics. For example, this one is International Review of Financial Analysis. It's ABS 3-star. And Ecological Economics, that's also a quite reputable economic journal. Now, these journals already recognize systematic literature review. And if you want to take a look at this, you can go on Scopus and search for it. Right, so that is why we want to introduce some new skills, a new skill set for economists to analyze unstructured textual data, in addition to the structured statistical data. Okay, so here you may wonder, what is so special about the systematic literature review? Is it different from what we used to do? That what we called snowballing review. Now, the snowballing review is something we're used to probably by default. So what you do is your supervisor or some Google will give you a seminal paper. You start with that paper. For example, in macroeconomics, we usually start with Smet and Malthus. And then we build on that reference to find other references, and then find a string of references based on our own judgment and luck. And when you find all these literature, then you just analyze them, write some critical review on them. But that's what we call snowballing review. The problem with this kind of traditional way is that the starting point of snowballing review is not that robust. It can have some retrieval bias involved in searching for seminal papers. How do you know these are seminal? Right? It depends on your own paradigm, your own existing knowledge, and your supervisor's quality. Right? So basically, it doesn't really guarantee you have a bias-free seminal paper starting point. And the second kind of bias of this snowballing review is when you screen different types of paper, you don't have a consistent quality assurance. Sometimes you just use your personal judgment rather than consistent criteria to screen out and include in. Okay, so that's the second bias you could have in snowballing review. That's called selection bias, which is very similar to statistical selection bias. You may contain some unrelevant or underqualified paper. And the third possible bias is when you actually do the analysis, you may have some prejudice and subjective summaries of those selected paper, and the analysis could give you some bias as well. So that is why in traditional economics and finance review papers, it's usually written by reputable people. That also contributes why we have a very low output of reviews, because we have very few these kind of reputable economists. And in contrast, systematic literature review will try to mitigate these three biases. It uses almost all database, because Scopus collects basically all reputable resources. So when we start the searching stage, we don't have any selection bias. And the second stage, when we screen out these irrelevant or underqualified papers, we use a consistent criteria of quality assurance so that you can include the most reputable and most relevant studies. And the third bias can be mitigated by some systematic process. That's why it is called systematic literature review, because all the procedures are so replicable. It's all systematic. You just follow the rules. And it's not done by you, but by some systematic procedures. We follow the law. We don't follow the people's subjective judgment. So that's why it makes systematic literature review a preferred way. Right. So the definition of systematic literature review is, well, I take one of the definitions from the literature, which is cited tens of thousands of times by Grant and Booth in 2009. It's called salsa, like the dance, salsa. It's a word combined with the 4 dimensions. Search contributes S, appraisal, A and L, and synthesis and analysis. So when you search, you aim for an exhaustive, comprehensive searching. So that deals with retrieval bias. And appraisal should have a consistent quality assessment using some criteria like ABS. This is just one example. If we subscribe to DORA, then you should use another way to assess the quality. But in the literature, many people use ABS. It's just a common practice. You don't have to say it is correct, but well, this is one way. Okay, synthesis. You have to use some systematic ways to synthesize the findings. And analysis is basically focusing on what is known, what is unknown, and uncertainties of finding and so on. Especially the research agenda is also evidence-based. And all these 4 parts of systematic literature review have one common feature, that is evidence-based. We're not just talk the talk, it's evidence-based. Right. So for economists and finance students, if you are very familiar with data, structured data, then let me give you an analogy between literature review and data analysis or empirical analysis. So when we are doing empirical analysis, we have structured data, like a spreadsheet. We have columns of variables and rows of observations. And similarly, in literature review, it's unstructured data, but we can make it structured. So the columns are the features or dimensions of the paper, and rows are each paper. Okay, so we map the structured data and the unstructured data in this analogy. So when we actually do the empirical analysis, running regressions, we need a random sample. If the sample is not random, then the result is biased. It's retrieval bias we are talking about here. We should not select a very subjective sample. We should make use of the entire literature review database. Okay, so that's the second dimension. And then we run regression, right, in empirical analysis. So the model looks like this. This y equals to linear regression. Okay, if you have data, you just have a model. And then in literature review, we basically synthesize the relationship between different literature using a synthesis like narrative, tabular, and graphical ways to make them synthesized. The difference is here we don't have alpha, beta, and gamma. Rather, we have different columns to synthesize them. Okay. So the parameters will be estimated if you have a good data and a model. You have alpha hat, beta hat, and gamma hat, and something like that. But in literature review, we just end up with some concepts, frameworks, and themes summarized from this process. They are analogical to this process. And if you are familiar with Bayesian estimation technology, then we have trials before we estimate any model. So basically, I know alpha equals 1, beta equals 2 with some uncertainty. So that is kind of a prior set for Bayesian estimation. But in snowballing review, it's very similar to snowballing review. You have some presumptions of what the review should look like, and put this presumption onto your review process. It could be a good thing if you have a very good prior, right? Because it can correct for the noises in the data. But if you don't have a good prior, then it will just bias your conclusion. Okay, so this is also what we call selection bias and other biases in snowballing review. So instead, what we do here is like using the flat prior. We have no presumptions when we start the review. We use evidence-based review to summarize the whole literature. That is what we call systematic literature review. Instead of using priors, we don't use priors. We use a flat prior to estimate or to summarize the review. Okay, so this is an analogy for economists and finance students. I hope it helps, because it's actually something only understandable by economists, not by management students. So let me show you some details of what this systematic literature review is doing. Okay, originally, of course, this systematic literature review was developed by medical science, something called Cochrane Reviews Handbook. So it sets up a guideline of how medical students should do the review and the whole rules following to be done in medical science. But it was very popular in recent decades in social science, especially management science, by other people. And the key feature of systematic literature review is, first, it's systematic. You don't have to make up some procedures. You just follow the hard rules set by the guideline. And the second feature is it is bias minimizing. As I said, there are 3 types of biases in snowballing review. So we try to minimize that bias. So it gives you a more valid review, even if you are not a very reputable economist like Lucas or other Nobel Prize winners. So the third feature is it is trustworthy. Okay. When you write it up, people don't judge this on your personal reputation, but based on the systematic literature review guideline, as long as you follow this strictly. Okay. So now let's show you how to do it in some brief 3-stage approach. I adopt and adapt this systematic literature review guideline from this paper written by Tranfield et al. In 2003. As you can see, it's cited by 14,000 people already. So it's not just a small kind of approach. It's quite popular nowadays. So the first stage is to plan. Okay, the second stage is to do it, and the third stage is to report. From beginning to the end, all stages are kind of following some strictly defined guideline. The first stage is planning. Okay, it usually needs a review panel. It's very difficult for I never see a systematic review written by only one person. It's usually written by 3 people. That is the normal size of systematic review. So that's why you have to form a panel. Because your personal judgment could be biased. You need some correction or voting system to make sure what you do is not biased. You have to form a panel, find your friend, find your supervisor, talk about it. And that's the first stage. And then establish the protocol. If you have some disagreement, how can you keep going? Not uncommon phenomenon is you really disagree with each other, and this panel break up, and you no longer collaborate. That happens. That happens. So please do find some people you can work with in the long run. Okay, otherwise it will not end well. So the protocol should tell you who does what, which stage is done by who is leading each stage. And if there is conflict, how can you resolve it? Okay, so that's the second thing you have to plan. The third thing is to conduct an exploratory pilot study. You don't have to do a lot, like 10, 20, that's fine. Just start doing it as a pilot study so that you will know the search terms later on and some other problems you may encounter. in the formal stage of conduct. Okay, and the last thing you should plan is to define the research scope. Okay, after reading some papers in the pilot study, you should have a quite good overall understanding of this area. Not precisely, but overall understanding. So you should set your inclusion criteria and exclusion criteria so that you will have a well-defined research base. Okay, so that's the first stage. Later on, we will have some case studies done by other researchers. They will show you what this planning stage actually means. Okay, the second stage is formally doing it. Okay, it will take the most of the time of conduction. The first stage of the second stage, 2.1, is to identify all the relevant literature. You need to decide the search database. Usually we use Scopus. Okay, Scopus is one of the largest literature database in economics, finance, and management, and so on. And it collects most of the reputable journals. Another popular choice is for what is it? WS? World of Science. Okay, Web of Science. Okay, Web of Science is a little bit smaller compared to Scopus, but it's more up to date. So eventually they will contain the same paper, but Web of Science updates a little bit slower. So usually I don't use Web of Science, I use Scopus. And there is another database based on AI called Dimensions. If you ever heard about it, Dimensions contains almost everything, including those working papers and books and so on. But usually we use Scopus. That's the most popular choice. Search fields is what terms you use to search. Like if you are doing land value, or what I'm going to show you later on is you use a search term called land value, but that is not covering everything about land value. It could be land price. It could be land pricing. It could be something else. So you have to exhaust all the possibilities that covers all your literature. And search restrictions. You have to restrict like language, journal articles, and all these things you want and don't want should be reflected in the restrictions. That's stage 2.1. Identify all possible literature. And 2.2 is screening. As we have already defined the inclusion and exclusion criteria, then you should automatically be able to screening some low quality papers out if you use ABS 3-star and above. You can use Python to analyze the text of journal, the source of journal, and then you just automatically screen out all these low quality journal articles. After the automated screening, then you should use manual screening. Read all the rest included papers. It's not done by one person. Okay, you have to organize a panel discussion. Who does the first round? Who does the second round? And if there is any disagreement, you should have a discussion and then decide if it is included. So all these things are systematic, guided by the rules. Okay, that's screening. After screening, you will have an included set of papers that forms the basis for your analysis later on. And in analysis, you could use qualitative analysis procedures like thematic analysis, or quantitative analysis, which you're familiar with because we know how to run regressions, and descriptive statistics. And some of our case studies later on will show you how they use these two sets of analysis toolkit. But after you analyze them, you should report them. And even in reporting them, there are guidelines, like how you report the screening process. It's something called PRISMA. Okay, it's also some kind of popular guideline used by many people. Page et al. 2021 shows you an example of how to report the procedure of coding. and screening. Synthesis. When you try to synthesize all the analysis results into narrative, tabular, and graphical ways, there are also kind of guidelines for this. So you just follow each toolkit, just like you follow OLS, GLS, GMM, all these procedures, they are already set out there for you to follow. Okay, so that's the 3-stage SLR. It's the most popular way currently, but we sometimes have to adapt it a little bit for your own research, but the skeleton doesn't change. Okay, so that, yeah, sure.
What do you mean page at all? That's a Prisma report.
Yeah, well, I'm showing you now. This is the Prisma flow chart. Okay, this is just a way to report the whole process from the beginning to the screening component. So you start with a set of database. In this case, it's 10,000 something, and then you screen out different criteria-based papers. Like you only want to limit in economics, then some other areas paper will be excluded, and article type and language, they screen them out. And this is just an example to show you, if you have only one database, how are you going to report it in the Prisma format? What you write is following some rules rather than following your own judgment. So that's why SLR is so popular now, because you don't really need to use your own reputation to rate in, this is reliable. No, you don't have to. This is reliable because you're following some rule. The rule is reliable. It's like when you do some governance, you don't follow people, you follow rules. It's a rule-based and evidence-based system. Okay, this is how to report. And when you do some analysis, there are a comprehensive set of toolbox in Python can help you to deal with this. This is just an example. We have a project with Swansea University. We will discuss that later if you want. We use, sorry, what is the toolbox for this?
Python.
Yeah, it's a Python, okay. Yeah, because I'm not doing this technical part, but the Python has a full range of toolbox for you to choose to draw this kind of graphs to show you where the study is based. For example, some Los Angeles and coastline cities have attracted more research attention, but in the middle of the US, there's almost none. It shows you something, the unbalancedness of the literature in research attention. Why people like to do the research for big cities and big countries rather than small cities and small countries. And it also tells you the research gap. If you want to fill the gap of the land value in the US, you probably want to find somewhere here to do the research, right? And this is just an example to show you, when you write literature review, you have a lot of tools for you to extract the evidence-based research agenda. And that's spatial distribution. And of course, you can do some temporal or time series kind of analysis to identify the pattern of evolution. And these are the identified papers in the land value project. And we find some relationship between different papers. The size are the number of citations, and the links are the strongest link you can observe among papers. It's following the Edmonds algorithm. It can also be done in Python. And you can identify the evolution pattern between two kind of streams of literature, and helps you to identify where you are and how you evolve up to this point. Okay, so this is just an example to show you what we can do in literature, systematic literature review. Just use different sets of tools to show Okay, the previous two are quantitative, which is quite familiar to you, but this one is less familiar to you. It is called semantic analysis. It is done, again, following some guidelines of semantic analysis. Basically, we collect all the factors in regressions, okay, from the screen papers. And these texts are unified in some way. We call it coding in semantic analysis. And by combining all these raw texts, then we got some subthemes. We use some overarching concepts to summarize some clusters of factors, and then summarize the sub-themes into themes. This kind of systematic approach can help you to find the way to do it. And this is just one way to show you how to build this hierarchical understanding of different texts you observe in literature. Okay, it's just an example to show you. Right, from this time onwards, I'm a little bit overrun in time. So Shijie is one of my PhD students, and he's going to show us how to use Python and another tool called VOS. VOS, okay, with I think you have a misspelling, yeah, to quickly start a systematic literature review. So let's have some hands-on practice. And okay, the stage is yours. Right.
We still have two.
So there's questions.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't see it. Prefer reporting. Yeah. Okay. That's yeah. That's what we call Prisma. Okay, Prisma is this synonym. Are you able to connect to Zoom?
I can just share my screen.
Yeah, share screen, please.
You just need a co-host.
Yeah, you can share directly. Yeah, share. Yeah. You share screen. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming. Maybe I just Okay, good morning. Okay, perfect. Okay, in the next 20 minutes, I will make a quick sharing of how to use Python and VOS Viewer to start a pilot of a systematic review. Before we start the introduction of my Python code and the application of VOS Viewer, let me tell you the most concerned thing you want to ask. First, I need to apologize. Based on this workshop, you cannot become a master in making the systematic review. But after this class, you can get a Python code and know some basic skills about how to use the VOS Viewer to have to make a class analysis and to see what's the location of the detailed study in your research area. And this code includes include 4 main steps. In the first step, we need to ensure our research keywords and search it in the Web of Science and Scopes. Then we download the basic article information data from the Scopes and Web of Science. We move to the Python, and we use Python to screen articles that issues on the 3 and 4 journals. Then we go back to the Scopes and Web of Science to download more detailed data. For example, the reference information, which will help us to make the cluster analysis in the fourth step. The first step, the setting of your research keywords, is the most important part, because you don't want to cause any biases because missing keywords. Taking my research, the green bond as an example, some people they may use green bond or green bonds, or sometimes they use green multiple bonds or sustainable bonds. So to ensure the green bonds, these two words are searched by the word group, we can use quotes. As for whether there is an S after the D, I can use the star. Some people may ask me why I do not direct use green bond separately, because if I direct search green bond without the quote, I can get some very tricky results. For example, in the chemical or in the biology area, there are some things they may start with green and a lot of sentences, then they show a bond. And another question is why I do not limit my research area in the business and economic area. It's because there are some people they issue their paper in the engineering or other areas. They talk about whether green bonds are helpful helpful for them to make the green transformation. And in addition to the keywords, there also have some common screening rules in the green bond area. For example, we usually select the article and the review article, just screen out the book chapters or the other things. As for why I only keep articles issued after 2007, because the first green bond was issued by the World Bank after 2007. And really we choose English as the screening rule. It's because English is the most common used language in the world. After you decide all of the keywords, you can open up your Scopes and Science Direct. Let me show you. Just for example, when it's your first time using Scopes and Web of Science, you can just type the thing you need right here. For example, the green bond is start, and then you click search, and you can add some screening rules. For example, I only keep articles issued after 2007, and I choose English as the language, and as for the document type, please wait a second. I save article and review article. So I can guess the result. Oh, I got nothing. Wait a minute, let me see what happened. Let me just do this again.
Yeah, you start with everything first, yeah.
Okay, for example,
Yeah, just try one.
if I only limit the publication year, I can get some results.
One by one. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's one.
Slowly.
Our website has something, maybe that's using. Okay, we can also try Greenbound in another website.
So this is Web of Science.
Yeah, this is the Web of Science. Okay, it's worse. Review article. For example, I only keep articles issued before 2007. I can get 700 results. After the search in the, no matter in the scopes or in the Web of Science, please remember to click the It's advanced search. You can guess what you have done. For example, in this one, we just searched the green bond which issued before after the 2007. It should be have a query right here, but it didn't show me. No, I don't know what happened.
I think it's okay.
Yes.
People can work it out
Yeah.
themselves.
So after you decide your keywords and screening rules, you can get a query in the advanced search bar of the Web of Science and scopes. So in the next time when you want to search your article, you can just copy it. I think there's something wrong with the website.
Always have problems.
Yeah.
Too many queries.
Maybe let me use this one. So it's from the Web of Science. So next time we can just copy it to the advanced search area and just search it. This is to ensure that every time you use the same rule to conduct your article search. And after you finish your first search, you can export your results. And in this time, you only need to export some very basic results. For example, the article title, the DOI number, and the issue year. After you export your results from the scopes and Web of Science, you can get two XSLR file. Like this one here. This one is from the scopes, and another one is from Web of Science. Later you will get the code from called SLR workshop, and one folder is called article screening. The Python code is in this one. Before using it, because please remember, later I will show you a QR code. To run this code, you not only need to Python, but also need the VSO and the Java. I highly recommend for the beginners just download the Anaconda because it already contains lots of packages. So when you run this code, you only need to install another 2 packages. After you install your Anaconda, the default working file, the working file path is after your username. You can just copy this SLR workshop file to this area and open your Anaconda.
Yeah, don't get scared by the Python. It's not that difficult. It's very similar to MATLAB if you have already done some MATLAB.
And then we click this one, the Jupyter Notebook. Actually, before making the SLR, I know nothing about the Python. I read this code by keep asking the ChatGPT. After you copy this SLR workshop file to your user path, you can find it and from this one this one 3 article screening. If I first run the Anaconda, just run this one, the pre-work file first. This will help you to install 2 packages. One is help you to read the Excel file. Another one is used to draw the pie chart.
Just to add, these are something like a toolbox in MATLAB. You have to add the path of some specific toolbox you want to use in the code.
And after that, you can open the main code. You only need to make some settings about the first block. First, you need to update this part to your own work file. For example, in the current situation, the work file is C user run as our workshop and 3 article screening. Okay, it's correct. As for the file called ABS Journal Star, it's from Peng's website. It contains article journal name and the ABS star. You also need to download, in addition to the 2 articles we have downloaded from Scopes and Web on Science, you also need to prepare another table. It contains the article you have read. For example, this is article I have summarized before. So we can just run the code. The overall code starts with creating a dictionary. It connects the link between the journal star and the journal name. Then after that, we import articles from Scopes and Web on Science. We make some adjustment to the journal's name. And then we merge the dictionary to our data set to see the star of each journal. And then we can draw a graph to see which database is better. For example, in this case, we can see both Scopes and the Web on Science. It contains most of research in the green bounds. And it seems that Scopes have more solely owned articles as my search time. After that, I screen the articles only have 3 and 4 star, and we draw this pie chart, and we can see both of these 2 websites. It contains most of good quality articles run to green bounds, which will help me to ensure no biases if I only rely on these two websites to conduct my systematic review. And after that, I export the data and compared this 3 and 4 star journal list to the article I have summarized. Then I can get the article that I haven't read. And then after this part, I draw article issuance by year. And then I summarize how many green bonds papers are issued in different papers. In this graph, I only keep journals that contains more than 2 green bond papers. I can change it to 5. But when you increase the frequency, please remember also just this part. And also remember in Python, the counting always starts from 0, 1, 2, 3. So if I only want to keep articles that contains green bound journals with a frequency higher or equal than 5, I should change this to 4 rather than 1. This is one thing we need to remember. And after that, it will read the article already exported at the previous parts and show you the query can be used on the Scopes or Web on Science to allow you to only download the 3 and 4 journals from the relevant website. For example, in this one this is for the Web on Science. I just copy it and go back to the Web on Science website, open the advanced search bar and copy it right here. Then I can get I can see that to date there are more than 100 3 and 4 star journal, 3 and 4 star articles that run to green bonds. That's what we need to do for the next part. We export of data by this text file format. Only this format allow you to export the full record and cited references. After we export this text file, we can open our View as Viewer. And before I show you the results from the View server, we can see what we got after we running this Python code. Here are what we got. Some graph we have showed before, and some lists. The full list are the full searching results after merging two databases. We can see there are actually more than 700 articles in green bonds. But if we only keep good articles, there are only just we have says 120. And another two are based on this file I just mentioned summarize. It can show me which article I haven't read and whether there are articles that I read but not included in green bond area. Let me see what this is number. Okay, after we run the Python and get the results as well as the queries, you can open the View as Viewer. This is a pretty handful software to help you to make the cluster analysis to the literature. Since we download the results from Web of Science and it contains all the journals reference information, so we choose the second one and then choose the first one, bibliography data, and then we choose the Web of Science. We open the file we just download. And I recommend to use this one, the bibliography couplet. This one is used to see the connection between the articles you input. And at here we can set some threshold. For example, I only keep articles that be cited more than 20 times. So I can get a visualized results. We can see there are 4 clusters for studies in green bonds. And this article is very far from others. As for the rest, they have a higher connection with each other. So the graph from the View as Viewer will help you to start your review and the grouping of the literature in your own area. But when you based on these results to summarize your paper, please read carefully, because sometimes for the articles, it's between the two clusters, it will be defined to a wrong cluster. So just read it carefully and just use this as your baseline to start your systematic review. Personally, I recommend to save the file as a CSV file, as a CSV format, because it will help you to make more adjustments. So after you get this picture, you can output your results. It contains two files. One is the map file, one is the network file. Sorry, I see. And meanwhile, you can also just save this picture. And this map file is very helpful for you to start your literature review because it has a detailed cluster group. And after that, you can just go back to the literature and to make some summaries. And meanwhile, if you see some very important, you think it's a very important article, but it was covered by others. For example, this one, we can see it's covered to the downside part. We can go back to the map file and find it. We can use this XY position to adjust its location. For example, if I increase this to 0.5 and I save the map, and then I reopen it, we can see it was moved up. So you can use this Excel file, the map file, to conduct the summaries of the study in your own area. And meanwhile, when you make the visualization, you can use this file to make some adjustment to the position of each article to ensure that the key articles isn't covered by others. And here is what we can do by the scopes and web access. Now we can have a quick and the question and answer tab. After that, I will show you how to use this to make a basic start of the green box. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Shubia. So now it is time for you to ask questions and discussion. Like where to find resources and what can you do with this and that. It's your time so that we can offer you some help. Probably you will leave your email so that you'll want to ask and contact you later. Right, yeah. So people online, any questions? You can either directly give us a shout or yeah.
Slides online because I told your slides, but I didn't.
You can ask Shubia to provide that. Well, if you could give it to me, I'll put it on the section website. You always find in the yeah.
When you collecting the data, which is the papers, then what does the dimension is?
Dimension, okay.
Or especially
there are some basic dimensions, like which year, which journal, how many citations. These are some objective dimensions you can set for each paper. But of course, you have some subjective dimensions, like what area do they focus on, what research question do they ask, what method do they use, what estimation method do they use.
it can also be the different columns.
Yeah, different columns. You can give any new columns yourself if you're interested in the method on its own. For example, if you're estimating growth rate, then the key mechanism of economic growth usually have this human capital or technology, innovation, entrepreneurship. There's different types. So you can have a column called the key mechanism. And you analyze them manually and then put this information for each paper. And then you can summarize kind of a proportion of focuses on the growth literature. How many people think it is related to innovation? How many people think it is human capital? And those kind of things can be easily done using.
So I have the second question is what is the presumption? When you ask when you ask green the papers, the only way you to choose the good paper is in the way of the good quality of the journal.
Yeah.
So is it the only one standard? No.
No, there are at least 3 ways of doing that. The first way is the latest way, using ABS. Use the platform to judge individuals. Like if you graduated from LSE, you are always better than anyone from Cardiff. Let's assume that. This is the same for papers. If you are lazy, you don't want to judge each paper, then you believe that journals will quality assure the papers. ABS 3 and above. Now this is also kind of a career Bible you use if you want to publish paper, publishing 3 star and above. That's one way. The second way is a little bit more tedious. You base on each paper, you read the paper, you give them scores subjectively. It's at the other end, it's totally subjective. You probably have 3 people and discuss, I give it a 10 out of 20. I give it 5 out of 20, and then something like that.
This way has at least 3 people.
Well, at least 3 people. Otherwise, how do you know you give the right rating? This is done by many SLRs. They just individually or collectively give marks for each paper, even if you can't publish in that paper journal, but you judge them. That's the second way. It's too subjective, I would say. The third way is to use citations. It's more objective. A better quality attract higher citation. However, different publication time will give you different citation. A paper published 10 years ago will obviously have more than the paper published this year. So it's very difficult for this kind of paper to square this consistency. But you can combine them, of course, if you want.
You have mentioned this way is similar to the Bayesian estimation.
Yeah.
That it has assumptions in prior information.
Yeah.
What is the prior information in this way?
In this way, it means, for example, you already know before doing this literature review, you already know that Smets Evalta is very important for macro. So you just base on that and find all the other papers citing it. Finding citation from the citation. This kind of way. You have a starting point, which is your presumption. However, this way may have some drawbacks. For example, probably you miss other important influential papers because you just don't know it. You don't know what you don't know, right? Also, you probably ignore those emerging trends because some new papers published didn't cite the OG paper. That's another possibility. So instead of using this presumption-based searching, we use a bias minimizing way. We search everything. We don't have a starting point. We search the whole space of literature. Anything related will be part of the consideration. Any other questions from the online? You can either type in or let me stop sharing and share my own screen. Yeah, any other questions? Anything related to the conducting and programming? Shijie has showed us some very detailed technicalities, but you don't have to worry about it. Once you are hands-on, it's not that difficult.
Is there a guide for the technicalities? It's not for
Yeah, usually, well, he did it just half a year ago, right? Yeah, so if he can do it, anyone can do it using Google and ChatGPT.
okay.
Yeah, but what he has done really well is he showed us some starting point presumption. You can use VOS viewer, and you can use Python. And all these things are informative directions you can follow to start with.
And for another question I also had, the output, is it graphs, etc., or is it like text? Could it look like, obviously the whole thing with AI is that you read something written by human or or an AI bot. So does this method sort of put out paper write it out as well?
Oh, you can't do that. Ethically, you can't do that. And it technically not possible yet. But it provides all the raw material for you to write up a paper quickly.
Yeah.
For example, the graphs, the tables, the word cloud, it can generate a lot of things that you don't even need to write out a paper. You have to select what is more informative and more important information to.
Are there any, you sort of talked about the advantages of SLR, which are very poignant and useful. Are there any like downsides to it? Maybe you don't get the person's you said respected economists. Maybe you don't get their personality or opinion in the
Indeed. But if you look at the graph I showed you, it is on the surge. So gradually, economists are recognizing this strategy because we do have a low representation in review. That's too low. If you just publish a paper and then no one review it, and that's a waste of talents we have done in our area. I think this growing trend of SLR in economics. Now this is the graph for economics only, economics, econometrics, and finance. So the mainstream is given some awareness of this new approach. And in other areas which has already adopted SLR for a long time, has a greater potential for you to publish. I believe this is a trend of review. And if you have to write a review anyway, why don't you publish it? Yeah, so I think that's the motivation of doing it. Yeah.
Can you show the map that how to generate the map? Because the map has the research gap.
That's spatial gap, isn't it?
Spatial.
Yeah. You mean this one?
Yeah.
I didn't do it myself. Yeah.
Review all the things. And then what? So this map is kept on that big table. So you can get all the information you want, like method, like country, like time, demand, study timeline, those kind of things. You can gather all this information in one Excel file. So that's the only information you get. And then you can do anything you want. You can visualize those kind of information. So that
can be the different methodology or different idea.
Yeah, anything. You can, this is just to show you a map of where it is done. But I can show you, actually, we have more spatial units here. The purple one is done at the city level, and the square one is county level. It shows you other information as well.
Yeah, so this one, so this information, the information in this map is get from the Excel file. So that's the very important thing. So try to, so that's the step one. You get all the literature you get from the literature from the database. You have to cut this one, and then you can write the dimensions. What information you're going to get from the different papers. And once you get it, and you can visualize like this, we just use a map to show what kind of information you get from the Excel. You can also use a bar chart, use a pie chart to show this kind of information. You just visualize something, Excel file.
So step 0 is what we get from the database, the literature. Step 1 is transforming the unstructured to structured. And then you are familiar with it. Now we are economists or finance scholars. We can make things more visualized based on that step 1. I start with step 0 because in Python we start with 0.
So the Python actually just to help us extract the information we want to do the filter.
Yeah.
And then the VOX viewer to help us randomize.
Yes. These ones give you more quantitative toolbox for you to get what you want. But what I didn't show is thematic analysis, which is basically a qualitative method invented by social scientists. We will have some case study later on delivered by one of my co-authors here. She's going to show how to deliver this kind of thematic analysis in qualitative way. Okay, but if you don't have further questions for now, we can begin this case studies. We have two case studies today. One is by Shijie, who is again going to deliver a systematic literature review in green bond. And okay, you have to reshare. You can always ask questions during the presentation. Don't worry about interrupting him. It's very nice.
Okay, now I will give you an example based on the results.
You have to share.
Okay.
Yeah, stop my sharing.
Oh,
Yeah, stop sharing. Yeah, here we go. That's all.
Okay, now I will base on the results we get in the previous section to make a very simple systematic review in the green bonds. And the topic is, do we really care about the greenness behind the green bonds? Before I start, I can give you a definition of the green bonds. Based on the definition from the Climate Initiative or the International Capital Market Association, green bonds are bonds issued to finance or refinance for eco-friendly projects. So in other words, it can only be used for issuers to improve their environmental performance or make the green transformation. And here we can get some research questions. Do we really care about the greenness behind the green bonds? Or we just take green bonds as a new X to put the formulas in our old financial or economic equations and get the results? So my first research question is, what are the main research forecasts of the existing literature in green bonds? The finance feature or the sustainability feature? Then what's the detailed research topic in different research directions, and what's the data and findings you get?
Sorry to interrupt. This is a very important step in SLR. You have to set a very clearly defined research questions like this. Otherwise, it's not following the rule. Okay, so it's not very familiar to economists because when we write papers, we don't have a clearly stated research question and so on. But in SLR, you have to do that. Okay, that's the starting point.
Okay, then I follow the Prisma to make my methodology of journal search, and the detailed rules I have mentioned before, and we can get some results from the Python, and based on this left bar chart, I also summarize the detailed journal information of the top 5 popular journals that contains studies in green bond. And then I can consider that the COVID, it raises the investors' concern about sustainability. So I divided my article data to article issued before the 2021 and the article issued after the 2021. As for the article issued before the 2021, we can see this can be divided into 3 main clusters. And obviously the red and blue one seems they are more sizable than the green one. We can see the articles in the green part are really small, almost only comparable with the smallest one in the blue part. But after the 2021, the situation changed. Compared with the previous graph, you can see the blue one. It once has 2 pretty large articles in this area, but after that, only 1 article has a very high impact. the rest articles, although they are pretty sizable, but their citations are really long. As for the right area, it was only have one article that have very large impact, but after that there are lots of small articles they appeared, and it seems that more people are beginning to focus on the red area. And meanwhile, compared with the previous scale of the green cluster, you can see there are also some good studies that have been cited many times. As for these two yellow clusters, there are two systematic reviews. And then based on the data, based on the cluster I found from the VOS viewer, I start to read my article and make some summaries. Here are some detailed information. We can see actually the studies in the red area. The main research focus is about the risk connection between green bond market and the other green bond market. For example, the core movement, the connectiveness, diversification, hedge effectiveness. Whereas for the studies in the blue area, it's always focused on the green bond itself. It's in the corporate finance area, for example, the bond pricing or factors that may impact the bond issuance. Well, as for the green cluster, we can see it focus more on the impact of green bond to the environment. And based on this is just Peng just mentioned. Some articles they issued earlier, so they have more time to get the citation. So the whereas you can give you the normalized citations, it's used to avoid this circumstance. The following is the formula. It's calculated by the citation of that document divided by the average citation of all articles issued in that year. And based on the summary, we can see before the 2021, the studies in the corporate finance area is the most popular one in green bond area. And then it's closely followed by the studies in the microfinance area. And as for the studies about whether green bonds can bring some environmental benefits, they are less carried. However, after the 2021, the situation changed. Maybe it's due to the volatile caused by the COVID and the Russia-Ukrainian war. The concerns about the risk connection between green bonds and others becomes the most popular topic. We can see the red one currently has the highest normalized citation. It's 1.9. Then it's followed by the green one. As for the blue one, it becomes the latest one. Therefore, we can answer our first research question. There are three main clusters in the studies of green bonds. There was two clusters that focus on the green bond finance system for green bond finance feature, but to date, more and more studies are beginning to concern about green bond sustainability feature. And after this, we need to move to the most tough part. Before we answer these two questions, all of the results we can get from the VOS viewer. It seems you don't need to take too much time to handle your data. But actually, these two are the authors or editors they really concerned. What are the main findings and the topics, and as well as the data and methods used in your research area. And I'm sorry to say that you still need to go back to literature and keep to read it page by page. And here I can give you an example. For studies in green bonds, I make a summary by the following dimensions. For example, the abstract results, data source, data period, model, and its contribution. There are lots of pages I need to read. And after that, I can draw a matrix. It's also based on the cluster from the VLS viewer and also with some corrections. I'm sure.
So how do you choose which paper you're going to read?
No, just read off the 3 and 4 star we get from the Python.
How many paper you read? Because you got a huge summary.
Currently, I think it's more than 100.
100 paper read paper by paper.
Yeah.
No, less than 100. Usually, SLR is the size of SLR paper review is around 70 to 100. If it's too big, then it can't be one field.
Yeah.
If it's too big, let's say economic growth, then you can't say this is the SLR topic because it's too big. You should break it down until you have around 70 to 100 papers. That's about the range we usually do SLR.
We just need to read the abstract and then summarize the contribution, or we need to read the full.
According to the SLR guidelines, you have 3 stages of screening. After you search everything, you have the first one, quality assurance, only keeping those important ones, with and allowed. That will screen out about half of it, maybe more than half of it. And then the second stage is to just look at the abstract to judge if it is relevant. Because some of the paper are not relevant. You just get rid of them according to your criteria. And the last process is to read the full text. It's all these columns. And these columns are examples of what you can collect for each paper.
Yeah, so for this stage, how many paper we need to read? Like
70 to 100.
And also, the recent question is not very interesting because the criteria you set is based on the recent question. Because you need to, screen this paper, right? So the thing is you need to what kind of, the rule you need to follow that criteria. The criteria is set up based on your research question. So that's a very important because we need to use that criteria to screen the different papers, right? So research question is probably really important. Yeah, so actually it's not really suitable for beginner researcher because you don't have that idea how to set your research question.
It's okay. You can revise your question later on. When you read it, you find there are so many papers, you can't handle it. Okay, revise your research question. It's not a linear approach. It's non-linear. When you see there are too many, okay, I narrow it down in a research question and screen out those you think is too much, and then narrow it down to 70 to 100. It is not a Nobel Prize winner. He can do it. I'm sure you can do it.
Actually, the more simple thing is just you only read the article, the show on the graph. And when you generate this graph, you can make the threshold. For example, you screen out articles being set is more than 20 or 10, or you can set it higher. Maybe it can decrease your workload at the beginning part.
So if I understand correctly, this method really tries to get you a bit more focused. So if you have a topic that you don't know, you don't know which papers you can read, so you find millions of papers around. But this method actually tries to screen out a number of papers and just give you a limited number to look at. Yeah, so if you have such a question and you don't have this method, it's really difficult to know where to start, what to read, and so on and so forth. But if you apply this method, you at least, have a much smaller set of papers that you need to look at. And, from those, 70 or something, you may throw away a number because of the abstract is not really closely related. And then you have maybe 50 papers, 60 papers to actually read
And when you read, you don't have to read every single detail. I mean,
Yeah.
you scan through, sometimes you read the introduction and stop. Sometimes you carry on to the letters. Sometimes you just focus on the contribution part. So it depends on what you really want from that paper.
Yeah, the columns.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's not huge. I mean, when you say you read 70 papers, you're not really supposed to read a paper in 2 days, right? So you can actually read 70 papers in less than a week. If you
Yeah,
sit down and do it, yeah. So I think it keeps you focused.
Yeah, and you won't forget those. You know, in my days, when I read a paper, I was really impressed. And after 2 days' time, I read another paper. Forget what I read, right? But with an Excel sheet there,
This comes really handy.
yeah, it becomes a structured data. Yeah, we can process from there onward.
So I'm sorry, I have one more question. I want to ask, in this table, the final table, you have like the higher quality of research here. So each column information such as, model selection or something is summarized by yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yourself. Yeah, you can
Yourself. Although you have to write down the author contribution of each paper.
yes, that's
Well,
what it is.
I-
But for 70 paper, it's not that difficult.
Actually, I just copied from the file.
Yeah, I think this guy came in the view, but this software is going to write the paper for him.
Well, actually, if you use AI, you could do that automatically.
Yeah.
You know, complexity.
Yeah.
They can help you to summarize everything. You just ask the same question for all the uploaded paper, and then it will generate that for you. But I don't.
It's not allowed.
It's not allowed, but don't tell us you do.
It's a. Yeah.
Yeah. Online people, if you can't hear us, please do give us some comments there so that I know your questions. I'm not sure if it is clearly heard, but if the participants stay stable, I think they are hearing something clearly. Yeah, keep going.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, the summary of the table is actually depends on what you need. For example, I summarize the results, data source, data period, model selection, contribution. Maybe I also need to summarize about the hypothesis of each article. So it depends on your research question and depends on what you want to get from the SLR. And then based on these results from the viewer, I just extended, calculate the data I have shown, the normalized citation. And then I copied the reference and complement the rest of this part. You can see this pilot study only based on studies that show on the picture. So I only contains, you see, around 40 papers. As for the detailed research subjects, I'm still working in this area. I don't know how to make this more beautiful. So I just make 3 metrics. For studies in the red area, we can see it's usually focused on the connection between green bond market to other markets. And based on the results, we can see the usually found green bonds are net receivers or the good diversification tool or the hedging tool for other markets. As for the models, the copula, the causality, what violates, and connectiveness are pretty popular, as well as the cost quantum approach. As for the database, people usually use Bloomberg and data stream. Someone may use Win or some unique database, for example, this one's Conda, or someone use the Yahoo Finance or something. Then in the blue area, we found controversial results about whether.
Maybe you want to keep closer to the mic. There's the mic.
I think maybe around this area. Okay, just move to this part. We can see that for studies in the blue area is a pretty traditional corporate finance study. Oh, sorry, wrong typing. And there are controversial results about whether green bonds can bring lower cost of capital. And the model in this area are usually based on the panel data. And the main data source is the Bloomberg or the data stream. And finally, in the green cluster, we can see there are pretty several topics, but the results are pretty consistent. The green bonds can reduce the carbon emission. And there are two papers that mention that policy is an important driver to the development of the green bond market. Meanwhile, there is one paper that highlights that traditional risk and return calculation approach maybe cannot fully show the value of green bonds. Maybe that's the reason why the studies in the blue area always get controversial results about whether green bonds can bring lower cost of capital to its issuer. So that's a very simple pilot study of the studies in green bonds. And if any have any questions, just ask me.
Any questions? Probably the field area, you are the special guy, so people are not very familiar with green bonds. But yeah, this is an example to show you what we can do with this approach. But there are many flexibility you can go from there. You have to follow exactly what he does. There are different ways of using pencil. You can use a knife to chop a tree. You can use a knife to chop a person, like up here, what you want to chop. Okay, so that's thank you. Yeah, stop sharing. And please do let us know, online people, if you have any questions on regarding this. And now, if not, I'm going to show you another case study from Ying Zhang. She's a researcher in Surrey University, and she has done. How do we share the screen? Here you go. She has done this for a long time, and I believe. How do we use?
Yeah, duplicate.
How do we this? Swap. Okay, so that people can see what you see. Yeah, that's the main screen. That's the. Yeah. So basically, I learned SLR from her. She showed me how to do this qualitative approach in literature review. Because she is from management studies background, and I usually despise, look down on business studies because these kind of things are talk to talk. But actually, after I dig into the details of SLR, I think it is really helpful to complement the economist's toolbox. And here we go. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for inviting me for this workshop. And the example, the paper I'm going to present today is a systematic literature review on blockchain adoption factors from an organizational perspective. So using the approach of systematic literature review, we identify the main themes on blockchain adoption factors and also identify the pattern of literature development using some quantitative methods to identify if it's an evolution or involution. Okay, so we all know blockchain technology is a very trendy or fancy technology in recent years. So it has received extensive attention for its great potential to business operations and particularly in management research. So as shown in this picture, we can see the average annual growth rate of blockchain-related publications is almost 75.3%, while all publications, the annual growth rate is only 4.7. However, the actual adoption of blockchain in real life actually is quite limited. And most of the blockchain projects are in the planning or testing stage, and also the low blockchain use case have yet reached the very mature phase. So we can say there is a gap between the extensive research, the extensive attention, and in the actual adoption of blockchain in the real life. So there are two logical possibilities. Either the technology is underused or the research is overhyped. And corresponding to the two logical responsibilities, we ask research questions. The first research question is about what are blockchain adoption factors from our organizational perspective? And the second one is how has the research on blockchain adoption developed over time? So for the first question, we will use a thematic analysis. It is mentioned at the beginning, is a quantitative method. And for the second question, we will use a quantitative method, such as correlation and regression, to identify the literature pattern. So actually, we are conducting a mixed method, covering both quantitative textual data coding and quantitative data analysis.
Sorry, just to interrupt.
Yeah.
How many times have you revised this research question? Could you tell us?
I can say I don't remember because at the beginning we have very general questions because the project we are doing is about blockchain adoption. So we want to know blockchain adoption more systematically. We want to know how has the research, what are the influencing factors that is the opposite one we can think about. And the second one, we want to know what methods the research have used and what findings they have conducted and what limitations. So actually in the Excel sheet, I extracted almost all the relevant information, such as the bibliography information and the area. I mean, it is supply chain related or it is some digital collaterals related, the application context, and also the method. It is a survey or it is interview, and if it's a review, and it's qualitative or quantitative, and how many how many data points they collected. So
how many columns? Like hundreds?
I don't remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's quite flexible. You could do this way or that way, but you choose to do this specific way because it suits the...
Yeah, because we focus on blockchain adoption factors. So that's the end point of this paper. Yeah. So by answering the two research questions, we make 3 contributions to the literature. The first contribution is that we are more comprehensive. We cover some more comprehensive literature and blockchain adoption factors because most of the previous literature reviews, they only focused on a particular sector. That's what we found when we're doing the literature review. We found the previous literature review, they are mostly focused on a specific sector. So the blockchain adoption factors, the scope is a bit limited. We want it to be more generalizable. Moreover, we use the 2 frameworks to help us to categorize the adoption factors and themes. So the technology organization environment framework is well established because it can help us to know if this factor is more technology related, for example, the maturity, or if this factor is more organization related, such as the capability of organizations. And the other one is developed by us when we're doing the literature. We did the literature review. We term it as BENA framework, such as barrier, enabler, and beginners, because we want to know to what extent a factor or theme is a barrier or enabler to blockchain adoption decisions. So it is also related to our research question. And by combining the 2 frameworks, actually we can, because the second one is developed by us, so we can provide a more comprehensive analysis to literature. So it is also more comprehensive. The second contribution is a developmental review. It's a developmental perspective because most of the previous review we have seen, it is focused on the current development. It summarizes what has happened, but it didn't tell us how has it developed to a current situation. So we want to identify the trend, the patterns more specifically, so we can know what's the root and how it develops over time. So that's what we call developmental perspective. And also, it's led by the German philosopher Kant and the American anthropologist Gies. We use the terms evolution and involution to distinguish between two patterns of literature development. So the evolution and involution was originally developed by Kant to describe the social development. And in our paper, we use the evolution to describe an outward progression, which means you introduce new things to a literature review when you investigate the adoption factors, and an inward progression to describe the elaboration of existing things by investigating new factors.
Without new ideas.
Without new ideas, because the factors we will aggregate it to new things. So it's such as a big topic, it will have some specific factors. But if you only just discuss this new state, the existing themes without introducing novel factors, which means you actually don't provide a very novel theoretical perspective or any new empirical evidence. So we think it is an evolution development.
The Chinese should know what is evolution.
内卷.
Right. We have a very competitive world without much.
Yeah.
And don't send.
Don't send.
And the share screen. Yeah, just share.
Okay. Like I just mentioned at the beginning, we use a mixed method approach because qualitative in a normal literature review, we only do some qualitative text coding. So we will have some qualitative findings and qualitative analysis, but we also combine some quantitative analysis methods such as the correlation and the regression. That's what you are good at in economics. And actually, it's quite novel to systematic reviews because I have never seen such a systematic literature review combining two methods in my sample. Okay. So here is the methodology we have been used. We follow a recommended three-stage process of systematic literature review, including the planning, conducting, and the reporting. So we have the review panel, and we did a panel study before we conducting the formal systematic literature review and set the criteria and selection filters. Okay, so well, we can say after the search and screening process, we finally got 74 papers selected for the data analysis. And in the data analysis step, for the qualitative data analysis, well, at first we need to extract the relevant information or information we are interested into a big Excel. And for my paper, I checked a lot at the beginning, and then we focus on the blockchain adoption factors. Well, there are 880 adoption factors, and then we use semantic analysis to aggregate it into 29 things. It is a quantitative textual data coding. After we got these things, we was conducting some analysis of the things using the TOE framework and also the Bernard framework. We calculated the TOE and Bernard ratio of each thing so that we can do some quantitative visualization, and I will show later. We also analyze the trends over time of the literature development and using papers and themes as a unit of analysis. Okay, here are some works behind the scenes. So you can see we can create, even in a literature review, we can create some quantitative measure to help us to present it more systematically or more evidence-based.
So this slide is just to show us not only economists know numbers, management study also use mathematics somehow. Seems quite complicated.
So let's just skip the complicated stuff. Okay, here are the findings. And at first we report how many things, what are things that we have found from the literature review. And we present the definitions of the themes in alphabetical order, along with the representative examples of factors and references, because this will help us to answer our first research question, and we use semantic analysis in management to help us to aggregate it to a more clear understanding big themes. So now lots of okay, so still remember we have calculated the TOE and Bernard ratios of each thing. So we can position each thing along the TOE dimensions in a ternary report. This plot is called ternary, and I use Python to plot it. It is a kind of visualization graphics to help us to see the pattern or the relationship more clearly, because it is difficult for us to see the relationship just from the definitions of the themes. We don't know. So, we can say the ternary report is an equilateral triangle with 3 colors labeled technology, organization, and environment. And the color or the vertex, let's say colors represent 1 for a specific dimension and 0 for the other 2 dimensions. For example, if a thing is located at a technology color, then it is 100% related to a technology dimension and has nothing to do with the organization or environment aspects. Well, we can have a look at a specific thing. For example, if we have a look at the subjectivity, well, the distance from the data point to the 3 colors actually is the percentages of each dimension. So when it is closer to, we can say it is more closer to the organization, and so we can say it is more related to organization. If we say the bottom axis of the organization and the environment axis, we can say the value is almost 6.7. So we can say the component of factors within subjectivity, actually there are 70% organization aspect. And similarly, if we draw a parallel line, for example, with the technology color, we can say it is far from the technology. And the technology vertex, it is 1, it is 100% related to technology. But if it's here, so if we draw a parallel line with the technology vertex, actually is almost 0.7, 0.17.
No, 20%.
20% almost. So it's 20% related to technology. And if we draw a parallel line from the environment, we can also know the specific percentage of this dimension. So we use different colors to indicate the dominant dimension of each thing. We can say the blue is technology dominant, and the red is organization, and the green is environment. So by plotting such a ternary report, we can identify the patterns more clearly, and it is easy for us to see it. So I will skip the details of the findings because it is more subjectively specific. But you know how it is. We have some quantitative measures, and we can use some helpful visualization toolbox to help us to present our findings in a systematic literature review. Oh. Another thing I want to emphasize is that actually from this ternary report, we identify a quite special thing. Which one do you think?
Fast.
Thank you. So we can say trust actually is positioned closest to the center of the ternary report. So which means it has I already show it here. It has a quite balanced set of TOE attributes. So which means it actually includes multiple stakeholders or have multiple perspectives. So it is worth of deeper exploration. about this thing. Okay. So this one is about the binary analysis of things. We also use it to report, and the dimensions now become the binary dimensions because the data point, the position of data point, show the components of barrier, enabler, and ambiguous within each thing. Well, notice that we have an ambiguous dimension because some factors or some things it can not be easily categorized as barrier enabler. For example, in some empirical papers, some factors they are insignificant. So we can't say it's a barrier, it's a clear barrier enabler. And some factors that they are conditional. For example, it's some mathematical models, and some factors they are indeterminate. So for this ambiguous inference on blockchain adoptions, for this kind of factors, we use another dimension called ambiguous to distinguish it from the barrier and enabler aspects. The color also indicates the dominant dimension of the TOP framework, and the red is O family, and the green is E family. Oh, yeah. The thing I want to emphasize here is that we can also use the coordination and regression to help us to identify the pattern. So we can say if we draw two regression lines from the barrier vertex and the enabler vertex to a center, we can say that is a negative correlation between the barrier dimension and the ambiguous dimension among these things. And one regression line is more steeper and the other one is more flatter. So we can say enablers are contingent, but barriers are more definite. So that's another feature of the systematic literature review. We are evidence-based, and we can use the mixed method to help us to support our findings or our conclusions. Okay, so these are also some patterns related to the distribution of the positions. So anyway, you can choose that one appropriate visualization tool help you to present the specific findings. It depends on the different context. And for this one, remember we mentioned the evolution and involution pattern. So we calculate the number of unique factors per stem over time, and also we detect the number of new stems over time. And we can say it is a significant positive trend of between the number of unique factors and over time. And there are no new stems after the first quarter of 2020. So it is also a regression line, and it can help us to show the trend. So we can say the literature has focused more on developing factors within established stems rather than building up new stems, and it is the evidence for evolution. We can say it because we have 75 papers behind us, and they did a very rigorous analysis. We follow the rules, so it is also evidence-based.
So just to interrupt here, this is a pattern we find in economics as well. The oldest paper contains all original ideas in the beginning, and later on we just elaborate on it. No new ideas, just all sorts of sophistications of techniques, try to make it detailed, more detailed, but not really new. That is actual evidence showing us ideas in the beginning, sophistications in the later, and that's involution rather than evolution of ideas.
Yeah, at the beginning we can say there are new things, but after some time that there are no new stems, but more factors appear. So more factors appear in the existing stems. They may use the different perspective to integrate the different factors, but there is no important breakthrough in the stems investigation in blockchain adoption research. So that's what we say about involution. Okay, we also explored how has the factors been investigated in blockchain adoption research. We calculated the average proportions of TOE and binary dimensions over time, and we can say in the TOE dimensions, researchers' attention has have been shifted to the E family factors in later years. And also in the Benna dimension, the researcher's attention gradually switches from barrier to enablers over time. So it indicates that researchers have been, in the past, they invested more on why not adopt, but at present, they want to address why and how to adopt. That's from enabler to, from barrier to enabler, such a shift of perspective. Okay, so the next pattern we identified from the literature review is a directed research change. A directed research change, it refers to the research is not randomly studied. It does have a direction. And actually, it is also echoes the economic theory of the Marcus directed technological change. So the direction of technical progress depends on the market size. We can have the example. For example, some rare diseases are rarely studied, but some popular diseases such as cancer and Alzheimer are more studied. So when studies extensively researched, then studies become more intensively. We created two measures to help us to identify this pattern. The first one is about research intensity, and actually it corresponds to the technical progress in the directed technology change theory. And the second one is about research intensity. We use the proportion of factors belonging to a theme and the proportion of papers investing a theme to explore the relationship between the two constructs. So as shown in this picture, it is a significant positive relationship between the research intensity and intensity, which means that if a theme has been investigated more extensively, in our case, we mean by more papers, then this more factors are likely to be appeared within this theme. Okay. So it indicates that blockchain research is also directed by subject popularity, which echoes the market size in the directed technological change theory. Okay, so based on these findings, they propose some future research directions. The first direction is to highlight themes with the multiple dimensions of the TOE framework. The first direction is based on TOE framework. And I want to emphasize here is that the trust theme that we have mentioned before is very special because it has multiple viewpoints and have multiple stakeholders. Actually, this paper I'm currently exploring is the role of trust in blockchain adoption decisions. So what I want to say is that when you have done a systematic literature review, you will know this literature review in your field more systematically, and you can choose the research gap that you are really interested and to do something. So that's also the advantage of a systematic literature review, because you will know the literature more clearly, even more than your supervisors.
How long will it take? Because like for us, we got 2+2+1, so there is a time limit for finish a PhD.
Yeah.
If we start using this method, how long will it take to write a nice literature review?
Yeah, I say. I'm sorry, it is we are 1+2. At the first year, we will have the classes, the modules, and for the next 2 years, we can do our research. But I can say, for me, is from time that I really engaged in this project is almost 1 year. Yeah. But after this, I think it's from
half a year.
Oh, I think the formal half a year. I think is from April 2022.
No, from December 2022 to June 2023.
I think it is earlier from April or May.
You were doing a lot of things back then, but anyway, I can give you a rough estimate. Half year is minimum.
No.
Okay, you have to say from a student's point of view.
After you have the workshop, you will become half a year. Because when I did it, I don't know anything. I just know systematic literature review.
Yeah, it's also it's a paper. It's not just a review, right? You can publish it. To make it a publishable paper, it takes at least half a year. Economics, you can't just say, okay, I do it in one overnight and then publish it. It's not possible. But half a year is quite estimate for the minimum.
Yeah, I think for half a year, I have finished the initial draft, and the next time I need to collaborate with my courses to revise it again and again. So that also takes a lot of time. But real time, the time you really fully engaged in this paper is almost half a year. Because after you finish the initial draft, you can start to do other projects, because for this project, you just need to revise it. Yeah, I remember because it has been a long time.
And what kind of paper can we, like journal, can we publish? Like for this kind of very structured literature review?
I just showed you some examples.
The earlier guys were on that.
The economics, for example, green bonds, energy economics is where you can publish. That's a 3-star, and some 4-star journals also started publishing that. But you know, it's not because they don't recognize. It's because no one do it in economics. If you do it and you persuade them, probably that trend will start to surge. You are at the front of this new trend. That's yeah, that's the message we try to send here.
Yeah. Okay. So the other research directions, because they are also evidence-based, but they are too detailed for us to not in this workshop. And for the conclusions, here are actually just the two take away messages. The first one is the literature pattern. We identify it is mainly an evolution rather than an evolution. Because at the beginning it is evolution, but later it is an evolution. I think it also can be adapted or be generalized to other areas like the economic, like Peng just mentioned. And the second one is about direct research change. And it is also generalizable finding or necessarily can be applied to other areas, because you can say the technological progress or the technological progress study, it really depends on the market size. If there are many people or many papers investigating a topic, this topic will be researched more deeper and in more details. But if there is any new or novel perspectives when they investigated the popular topic, you don't know. You have to investigate, and you can say what is an evolution or evolution. Yeah. Yeah. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Well, basically, I think to generalize what we have here, this directed research change is really important, because if you can predict what's the next height in research, you will be on the right trend. You're doing something with a prospect rather than going to the dead end. So I believe this evidence approach, systematic literature review, will help us to see what's to be done and to publish a paper. And this is why I'm trying to push this to you, but you don't have to accept it. This is just an approach we could make use of to make our life a little easier. Okay, any questions? But we're a little bit overrun in time, but we are still able to answer some questions if you have. Online friends? I believe Shijie will collect all the contacts and resources in a piece of document, and I'll put that online so that you can ask him if you want to collaborate with him or get information from him. Questions?
Yeah, half a year is a minimum, I think.
That's all, you learn how to use it.
Yeah, well, you have a learning curve there, and also it takes collaboration. For those old ways, as long as you are reputable, you can write a review without much doubt. But if you want to guarantee the process validity and reliability, you will have to collaborate with other people to square the opinions. And that, yeah,
not be biased.
yes, that's one of the process we pushed here. Yeah. So here we go. Any? Okay, thank you. And I hope it is helpful for everyone. So that's it. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Finally.